Well, I hope you're well belted in, because this is the quickest thing on television.
Summer of '89, and the largest crowd in the history of European drag racing gathers at Santapod for the hottest meeting of the year, the World Finals. 10,000 people crowded the spectator bankings all through qualifying, and the crowd grew larger for eliminations on the Sunday, ready to see the heroes of the quarter mile do their thing. And it's not just spectators who are attracted here. Racers come from all over the world, like this man, Al Segrini, hero of the NHRA Trail, came to Santapod as a visitor earlier in the year with Darrell Gwynn and said he had to come back and race. Here he is at Santapod for the World Finals in the Coca-Cola Top Fuel car. His first qualifying run was against this lady, Liv Berstad, the Norwegian top fueler who stole the European record against Darrell Gwynn earlier in the year. Segrini in his burnout for the first qualifying run. Well known to the spectators for his performances in the Fabergé Super Brute funny car on the NHRA circuit, now running top fuel here at Santapod. The qualifying run then, Segrini on the left of the screen, off the line first, Liv Berstad right behind him, but look at this, wheeling in towards the centre line. Segrini, a clean run for him, no problems, a nice qualifier that puts him into the eliminations, but that crossing of the centre line disappoints all of the spectators just as much as it must have upset Liv Berstad, because it puts her out. No place in the eliminations for her as the car goes right across, straddling the centre line and puts her out of elimination. Segrini, a clean run. Also much in evidence, a return visit from the very popular Scandinavian pro stockers. This is round one. Jan Vaness from Norway takes to the left-hand lane to meet his first round opponent. Also a 7-second man, Niels Nielsen. Nielsen, his burnout on the right-hand side of the strip. A newcomer to Santapod, first time we have seen him here, but the Swedish Pro Stock Circus has visited Europe several times before, always been very, very popular with the crowd. Round one then, Jan Vaness of Norway over on the right-hand side of the strip. Nielsen on the left. It's Jan Vaness away first, and Nielsen powering up alongside him. They're side by side as they go towards the top. Very, very close. Very, very close indeed. Jan Vaness coming back in the last few yards, but it's Nielsen who gets his nose in front, and it's Nielsen who goes through 7.66 seconds, 177 miles an hour. Qualifying earlier on had been fast and furious. Jari Connolly from Sweden here on his qualifying run. And Connolly, of course, well known to visitors to Santapod. Also qualifying well, Kjetil Hoge, another Norwegian, also a regular visitor. Performances have delighted the crowds in the past. Today would be no exception. Hoge qualified very well indeed. Side by side, and it's the launch that's so important to these pro stocks, picking up their front wheels, 500 cubic inches of engine, and that's the result on the launch. Pair of nice clean qualifying runs for the Scandinavians. Nevertheless, Hoge came out and tried again several times to improve his position. There he is in the burnout. Alongside him, his opponent for this qualifier, Sven Andersson from Sweden, another driver, well known and a very tough competitor, a hard man to beat in eliminations, very fast machine. Andersson then on the right-hand side of the strip, the left-hand side of the screen, and Kjetil Hoge, the left-hand lane, the right-hand side of the screen. Watch that launch again when the lights go green, see these cars pick up their front wheels. Kjetil Hoge rather flat off the line, Andersson behind him, slower on his reaction times. That doesn't matter in qualifying. You've got 20 seconds to sit there. Hoge pleased with that one. Sven Andersson, also a nice straight run. Funny car qualifying also produced plenty of excitement. Gary Page here in the Showtime car going through his burnout. very popular, winner of the Cannonball Run, and currently the British favourite. Alongside him, though, for this qualifying run, the man who was the other half of a controversial incident at the Cannonball Run earlier in the year, Harlan Thompson from America. Both of these drivers have something to prove. This qualifying run is going to be slightly unusual in that they're rerunning in their minds. They must be the Cannonball final. Thompson and Page then coming up to the line. Off the line together, Gary Page left behind, blazes the tyres. There goes Thompson, but there goes a repeat of the incident which caused so much upset at the Cannonball. Watch this, this is exactly what Harlan Thompson did in qualifying at the Cannonball. A good launch going very, very well. The car starts to move at this point, over and touches the outside line. Nevertheless, Harlan Thompson did qualify, and so also did Gary Page. And Gary Page drew in his first round pairing this man, Norm Wilding. Norm Wilding, a newcomer to funny car. He's been to the Frank Hawley School of Drag Racing and produced a brilliant performance in August. This is his first big competitive meeting. He makes his qualifying run against John Spuffard. Spuffard, a driver of great experience, then on the right-hand side of the strip, and Norm Wilding, the newcomer with the VW Passat funny car. 3,000 horsepower apiece. They're away from the line, and it's Wilding with the better launch and the better run. A good qualifier for him. And that's the moment that John Spuffard's engine let go. You can see the detonation. Just as he goes through the eyes of the traps, a big bang underneath the body. And an expensive bang as well. Here's a class of racing which has come on tremendously during 1989. Pro-modified, and this is the man who really has set the stands alight with his performance in this huge Chevrolet, Tim Cook. Watch this monster jump, lightweight space frame chassis, but look at the size of that car as he goes through his practice launch. Qualifying alongside him, Dave Warne in the mean as hell Sierra. The man who was competing with Jeff Hauser all through 1989 to be the first British door slammer driver down in the sevens. Honours went to Jeff Hauser, we'll see him later. It's Tim Cook though, the man on the right hand side with the big Chevy. Dave Warne on the left. And look at the difference in size and shape between these cars. Same launch pattern though, cocking up one wheel away from the line. It's Tim Cook who's got off first. Dave Warne doing all his can, but look at the power come on in that motor as Tim Cook just storms away. It was all over on the start line though. Tim Cook and Dave Warne away together, but look, a car's length lead already. Competition Eliminator is always popular with the spectators because it produces such a mixture of cars on the track racing side by side. The Giles and Hartley dragster out against this classic Corvette, two completely different styles of car, two different approaches to the same piece of racing and two different approaches to the driving job. Just watch these two on the launch because that's where you're going to see the difference between the long wheelbase dragster and the short wheelbase Corvette. Corvette jumps, it looks spectacular but it costs him time. Giles and Hartley coming back, Barry Giles striking back as they go to half track, and it's Barry Giles in front just at the finish. Now watch the race develop in slow motion. It's the Corvette lifting its front wheels and away first. Barry Giles behind him. See the horsepower coming on by the time they get to half track. Barry Giles is in front. The Corvette tries hard, but it's Barry Giles at the top end. Pro Comp eliminations, always very, very tight and competitive, especially when this man's around, Tony Donges from Sweden. His first round pairing draws him against one of the British heroes, Steve Reed. They've raced each other all over Europe time and time again. And it's Steve Reed powering past Tony Donges. Steve Reed as they go towards the top end. Steve Reed clinches his first round victory, 6.44 seconds, 211 miles an hour. Here it is again, and here's the reason why. Watch Tony Donges lose his aerofoil, lose his downforce, and lose the race to Britain's Steve Reed. Next pair out in round one puts this wild burnout from Rico and Tez on the start line, alongside yet another British hero for the Stones team, Dick Cruz. Mercedes-Benz coupe body for Rico Antez. The Stones, very, very popular with the crowd, racing on what they would themselves describe as a shoestring budget. They nevertheless managed to remain tight and competitive. This is the World Finals though. Everybody's geared up for it, including Rico Antes. There's Dick Cruz on the line, waiting for the green, nudging it into stage. Tension building, RPM starts to go up in the motors. Rico Antes, the last man into stage. Holding it still. There they go, Dick Cruz away first, but Rico Antes passed him, and Dick Cruz obviously with motor problems as Rico Antes takes the win. 6.43 seconds, 216 miles an hour. See it again on the start line. There's the green, both cars away together, but already the Mercedes starting to put on a better performance, and Dick Cruz left behind in the first few yards. Big gap at the top end. Peter Cruz from Germany, out for his burnout. He takes the right-hand lane, lights up the rear tyres to put some heat in them. It's a spectacular moment, but it does have its purpose. A long burnout from Peter Cruz. Warms up the rear tyres, warms up the track as well, lays some rubber to launch from, and he's got to launch hard because alongside him, a very, very tough competitor indeed. This man is Bjorn Ardeen. He's a regular winner at Santepod. Very competitive, very, very consistent. What you can't afford to do is make a mistake while Bjorn Ardeen is alongside you, because he will snatch the win. So Peter Cruz really up against it, the German driver. Rolling up to the start line, trying to get those back wheels right in the hot lines left during the burnout. Bjorn Ardeen, of course, has done exactly the same thing. Bjorn Ardeen rolling slowly into stage, always the last man into stage, Bjorn Ardeen. Puff of smoke there as he starts to clear the engine and build up the RPM for the race. This is the moment. Waiting for the greens on the start line. Bjorn Ardeen, those last couple of inches to set the clock running, and they're away, and it's Bjorn Ardeen, Peter Cruz, a little fluff on the line there, and Bjorn Ardeen away and gone. Bjorn Ardeen takes the win, 6.46, 215 miles an hour. Mickey Kagerad in the tempo. A Swedish driver who has been to Santepod several times. Another long, hard burnout for this Pro Comp coupe. A long way down the track and reversing back, clearing the smoke from the inside of the car. And alongside him, the first dragster in Pro Comp. This is Britain's Barry Sheevels. A long burnout too for Barry Sheevels. Mickey Kagerad back on the start line already. The crew shut the escape hatch, pull the pins from the parachute. He's ready to go, he's on his own. It's up to the driver now, how quickly he rolls into stage. A little bit of psychology always on the start line. You can see the white line that he's aiming for, trying to plant the front wheels in the beams across the track. Tension building, waiting for Barry Sheevels to come into stage as well. There he is, rolling it forward the last couple of inches. Barry Sheevels holding back. There they go. Mickey Kagerad away first. Barry Sheevels coming on, but Mickey Kagerad holding him off. Mickey Kagerad storming to a win. It's Mickey Kagerad, 6.56, 204 miles an hour to take the win. Now we move on to funny car. Gary Page. Definitely the crowd pleaser here this weekend. The Panic team been running the Showtime funny car for 2 seasons now. Nice tight little burnout for Gary Page. Hear how crisp that engine is. The new boy, Norm Wilding, in the VW Passat. Tension must be high in this car. Norm Wilding competing in his first really big meeting. Frank Hawley taught him how to drive this car and how to perform burnouts like that as well. Norm Wilding really very, very competent in such a short space of time. Reverses back now and trying to get absolutely into the rubber lines he's laid down in the burnout. See the way the crew clear the track. What they want is rubber-to-rubber contact on the start line for the best possible launch, as both drivers unleash 3,000 horsepower in a fraction of a second. Norm Wilding then, edging up to the start line. Stuart Balance in the background, watching his protege, and it's Norm Wilding away first. Gary Page coming on strong, and Gary Page falling behind with a problem. And a perfect run for Norm Wilding, 6.04, 238 miles an hour. Watch the launch, lifting the front wheels as he goes. Gary Page alongside him, level pegging in the first 50 yards, but it's Norm Wilding starting to draw ahead now, and that's the moment at which the race was lost for Gary Page. Norm Wilding goes on to the next round to meet Harlan Thompson or Charlie Draper. Now we'll find out which one it is to be. Charlie Draper for the EMS Togo car. Perfect burnout for Charlie Draper. But he's the man with everything to do, because he's drawn against Harlan Thompson, and Dennis Priddle caught up with Harlan earlier in the pits.
A slightly unusual position for you, qualified number 2. How do you feel about it going into the first round?
Well, I feel pretty good about it. We tried some new stuff with the car, and we're happy the way it's running. We just spent a lot of time getting the top fuel drags to run good, and working the two cars back and forth. So I feel pretty good about it today.
266 miles an hour, that must be your best terminal speed here?
I think it is. I'm not real sure, but you know, I don't always keep a track of the stuff. I forget about what we did last week and try to do better next week.
Ever the optimist, Harlan Thompson comes to the start line for his first round pairing against Charlie Draper. Burnout's completed, and now those little dry hops up to the line, ready for the race. Team boss Knut wheeling Harlan Thompson up to the beams. That's the moment at which he hands over control of the car to the driver. Absolutely, it's all down to Harlan Thompson now. Hard work in the pits, and it's all the driver's responsibility. Waiting for the greens, they're away. Harlan Thompson with the best launch. Harlan Thompson miles out in front, moving ahead there. 6.03, 231 miles an hour, but look at it in slow motion, and there he is crossing the white line to get disqualified and let Charlie Draper through to take the win. But now the starter motor goes down on round 1 of Top Fuel. The crew just feeding petrol into the air intakes, firing up the engine and switching on to nitro for the race. Tony Brinterson, low qualifier, has drawn himself against Al Sagrini in round 1, and Dennis Priddle called up with Tony Brinterson and asked him whether he was worried about that.
Tony Brinterson, your first trip to England in Top Fuel, and here you are sitting in the pole position. You must be pretty pleased with your performance so far.
Yes, we are. We are very pleased with that.
But it must be a little bit of a daunting task now, taking on a driver of Al Sagrini's class in the first round. Does this concern you at all, or are you taking it with an open mind?
That doesn't bother me at all. Nothing. We're going to take him.
Super confident Tony Brinterson, but this is the man he has to beat, Al Sagrini from the USA. The most experienced racer here this weekend, almost certainly. Al Sagrini, of course, used to racing the short wheelbase funny cars on the NHRA circuit, and here taking his seat in the old Darrell Gwynn car in Top Fuel. Round 1 then. Tension high on the start line as they wheel up towards the staging beams. Al Sagrini watching the tree, waiting for the green, rolls it into stage. That last few inches, there he goes, Al Sagrini, but Tony Brinterson powers past him. 5.60, 257 miles an hour against 5.71, 241. The next pair in round 1 of Top Fuel, Pelle Lindelo from Sweden, waiting for the order to start. The moment at which a driver is alone with his thoughts, psyching himself up for the race. There goes the petrol into the air cleaner. Crew spin the starter motor, the engine catches, the fuel pumps start to push the nitro mixture through, the engine's running. That's it, warmed up and ready to go. Alongside him, Connie Anderson. So it's Connie Anderson here in the burnout. And a new name for Santapod in Top Fuel racing, Connie Anderson. With Tony Brinterson through, it's going to be an all-Scandinavian final. Which one of these two will go through? Perfect launch on the left-hand side of the strip for Pelle Lindelow. And he's the quickest man on the quarter mile, 5.53 against 5.77 seconds. Hans Knoiters locks the front wheels ready for his static burnout. That means it's round one of pro stock. Hans Knoiters heating up those rear tyres as he comes out to the line. Finnish driver, very experienced, very, very quick indeed. Remember, they're all down in 7-second bracket in qualifying. Going to be very, very tight and very, very fast. The man against him, Kjetil Hoge. And Kjetil Hoge, we've seen qualifying very, very well and taking it seriously, putting in several attempts to qualify well for this first round pairing. Nevertheless, as the number 5 man, he's drawn the toughest job in round one, racing low qualifier Hans Knoiters. So Kjetil Hoge with everything to do. Hans Knoiters the favourite, and it's Hans Knoiters who goes powering past to take the win on the left-hand side of the strip. 7.49 seconds over 7.66. Powering on to 184 miles an hour at the top end. This was Hans Knoiters' race all the way. A really hard launch, lifting up those front wheels. That gives him the advantage. He's out in front and he holds the lead all the way through to the finish line to take the win. Next pair out in round one. Magnus Wallin here going through his burnout has drawn the number 3 qualifier, Sven Andersson. Magnus Wallin then with a great deal to do. Sven Andersson, a well-known and very fierce competitor. This is the man he has to beat. That practice launch, the dry hop as they call it, just getting everything settled for the race. Now the Camaro comes up to the line, rolling those wheels until they break the staging beams. That tells the driver he's just ahead of the start line. Locks it in, clears the motor and clears his mind for racing, and then rolls those last couple of inches into stage, and away they go on the green, side by side all the way. Going to be very, very close at the top end, but it's Sven Andersson, the yellow Camaro on the right, who goes through. 7.63 seconds. Sven Andersson then powering on to that 179 mile an hour victory over Magnus Wallin. Magnus Wallin with problems, I think, because 8.02 and slowing to 143 miles an hour. Here's the next pair out then, and this is the number 2 qualifier from Finland, a newcomer to Sandipod. This is Hannu Santala. Well, he may be an unknown quantity to the spectators, but number 2 qualifier counts for something, and that means the man alongside him has got a lot of work to do. This is Sweden's Jari Konala. Rolling up to the line then for the race. Konala on the left-hand side of the strip. Taking it easy. The front wheels into the beams, builds up the revs in the engine, waiting for the green light. There they go, picks up the front wheels. But it's the Finnish driver who's got the advantage. Jari Konala coming back at him, but all the way up there, it's Hannu Santala to take the win. 7.63 seconds, 179 miles an hour. Close at the top end, because Jari Konala 7.77, 178. The last pair in round one then. Sweden's Nils Nilsson in the Castrol GTX car. From the static through to a rolling burnout, he's got Jan Vaness from Norway alongside him in the left-hand lane. Well, Jan Vaness on the bump spot must have his work cut out to take Nils Nilsson out on this first round pairing. Backing the car up to the start line. Choosing his line to get into the rubber marks left in the burnout. Nils Nilsson on the other side, ready and waiting. A moment of tension while the drivers decide who's going to go into stage first. A little bit of psychology. Lots of tension as they wait for the green. RPM going. There's the launch for Nils Nilsson, and already he's out in front. Nils Nilsson 2 car lengths lead at half strip. He takes the win by a convincing margin. 7.66 seconds, 177 miles an hour. Big gap at the top end, and here's the reason why. Jan Vaness 9.96 and slowed to 90 miles an hour. Well, two drivers who didn't quite make the cut for this competitive eliminator were Jerry Engstrom from Sweden, and alongside him another Swedish competitor, and one who for many reasons is very popular with the crowd at Santipod, and that's Vivica Erstad. Nice burnout, but that's not the only reason for this lady's popularity. That's the other reason. Just a little bit slower. The bump, remember, in the 7-second bracket. These two very, very fast, but just not quick enough on the day. Vivica Erstad on the right-hand side of the strip. Car full of smoke after that static burnout, and there's the crew waving the door to clear the air so she can see where she's going. Jerry Engstrom moves into stage. Both drivers in stage, there they go, picking up the front wheels. Jerry Engstrom with the better launch, and Jerry Engstrom out in front all the way, taking it to the top end with a fine victory, 9.69 seconds, 142 miles an hour. There's the moment the race was won. Jerry Engstrom away from the line first, and leaving Vivica Erstad behind. A much, much slower run for her, 10.67 seconds, 161 miles an hour. With Graham Bars, the scene shifts to Pro Modified, a fairly new branch of drag racing in this country, but one which has grown over the past couple of seasons. Graham Bars with the Mustang, one of the top competitors in this field. Alongside him, on a bye run as well, the furiously competitive Dave Mingay with his Chevrolet Monza. Both of these drivers will go on to the next round regardless of the outcome of this race, and they will treat it as a race. Waiting in stage, all they have to do is finish the quarter mile to survive into the next round, but it's so competitive that they are bound to nail it when the green comes up. Dave Mingay, the last man into stage. Graham Bars away on the green. Dave Mingay, foot to the floor as he follows him up the quarter mile. So both of them go through to the next round, and a little fluff on the start line, unusual for Mingay. But remember, he can't lose. All he has to do is complete the quarter to get through into the next round. So if he was going to make a mistake, this was the time to do it. Jeff Hauser, the man who broke into the 7-second zone for the first time for a British door slammer driver just 6 weeks before this race meeting in his Sierra Cosworth. Nice long burnout for Jeff Hauser. He too is on a bye run into the next round. All he has to do is make that trip up the quarter mile to survive. So too does Tim Cook with the Chevrolet. So 4 bye runs in this 16-car field. Once again, they could take it easy. They simply have to drive up the quarter. But you saw Jeff Hauser's burnouts, and that wasn't a man who was going to take it easy. Waiting for the green light then. Builds up the RPM. Good launch from both drivers. They're not relaxed about this at all. Jeff Hauser using this bye run as an opportunity for a practice launch, but Tim Cook nailing it all the way through. Semi-finals in competition eliminator once again sees that strange mixture of body styles on the racetrack. Nicky Lorienko from Sweden in the Sierra here comes up against a British competitor in a completely different class of car. It's Barry Giles again in the Giles and Hartley Dragster. One of these drivers goes through to the final, racing for national honours as well, and look at Barry Giles away with that brilliant launch. Nicky Lorienko coming back at him, but Barry Giles all the way up the quarter mile. It's Barry Giles at the top end to take the win and honours for Great Britain. And the other semi-final is once again an Anglo-Scandinavian affair. This time it's Gert Andersson from Sweden. And again, a confrontation between a door slammer and a dragster, because the other side of the strip is occupied by Great Britain's Roy Cockerill. So the dragster going through its grip juice routine, just putting some sticky substance on the tyres, spins it round, makes them just a little bit grippier when they come to that all-important launch. So Roy Cockerill on the left-hand side of the strip for Great Britain in the dragster. Over on the right-hand side from Sweden, Gert Anderson. Waiting for the green light, there they go. A good launch from Roy Cockerill. And a good run from Roy Cockerill, staying out in front as they go towards the top end. But look at the Camaro coming back at him and pips him right in the eyes of the trap. Watch that again in slow motion because that was so close at the top end. Perfect launch for the dragster. Roy Cockerill with his wheels in front at that early part of the race, but now watch the Swede coming on strong as they go towards the finish line, and right in the last couple of feet takes the win. This is round 2 of Pro Comp, and this semi-final pairing matches Germany's Rico and Tez in the Mercedes-Benz Coupe against the British hero in the dragster. So Rico and Tez with his burnout on the right-hand side of the strip meets Steve Reed. And a very hard burnout for the British driver. Rico Antez came to this pairing off a 6.43. Steve Reed got here with a 6.44, so evenly matched as they come to the start. Waiting for the green light. Steve Reed rolls it in. He loves to be the last man into stage. There he goes, a good launch for the dragster. Steve Reed with his nose in front. Level pegging at half strip. Rico Antez coming back at him. That was so close at the top end. Let's go to slow motion and see who did win that pairing, because they were virtually side by side as they went through the finish line. Good launch from both drivers. Steve Reed looks to be in front, but watch Rico Antez come fighting back and snatch it on the finish line. 6.44 seconds against 6.47. The other semi-final sees Mickey Kagared out again. Now he came here off a 6.56 victory over Barry Sheevels in round 1. But he's got the hard man to beat, Bjorn Ardeen, who got into the semi-final with a 6.46 at 215 miles an hour. And judging by that burnout, Bjorn Ardeen really does want to claim his place in the final. This is the race then as Mickey Kagared comes up to the starting beams. Rolls the tempo into the lights. Once those wheels are locked into the beams, the automatic countdown sequence has begun. First driver into stage starts a 20-second countdown, and if Bjorn Ardeen isn't ready in 20 seconds, he'll lose the race. He likes to be last into stage as well. Rolls it slowly up to the beams. Just nudges the Trans Am into the starting beams. There goes the RPM building up in the engines as they clear for the race. Good launch from both of them. Bjorn Ardeen powering past Mickey Kagared. It's Bjorn Ardeen with his nose in front. Bjorn Ardeen just at the finish line, 6.42 seconds. Very close all the way. Mickey Kagared looked as if he got off the line first. Bjorn Ardeen a little bit behind at this stage, but he powers on to a 217 mile an hour win over 6.49, 211. As the sun blazes down, the spectators lap up a perfect day's racing, and the scene shifts back to pro stock and the semi-finals. On the left-hand side of the picture, on the right-hand lane at Santapod, Sven Anderson. That static burnout that gradually shifts into a rolling burnout, lights up the back tyres, heats them up ready for racing. On the other side of the strip, Hans Kanoitas goes into his static burnout, rolls it across the line. That burnout, the equivalent of the Formula 1 driver's weave. You've seen that on the warm-up lap, weaving from side to side, trying to get the tyres up to racing temperature. That's what the burnout's for. Now they come to the start. Lock the front wheels into stage, and it's Hans Kanoitas with a perfect launch. Hans Kanoitas powering off the line. What a brilliant start for this man, and a perfect win, 7.46 seconds, 185 miles an hour. Well, not just a perfect launch for Hans Kanoitas, but the fastest run of the day, quickest man on the strip, and Ronnie Krabarod caught up with him in the pits after the race.
We're in the Pro Stock pits where we found one of the finalists, Hans Knudes from Sweden, recording a beautiful 7.46, a new record for him, and really outrunning Hanno Santala from Finland a little bit. How did you feel?
I feel fine.
The car ran very strong this time, didn't it?
Yeah, it's working well.
So you had also 185 miles per hour. That's a new top speed for you.
Yeah, we got the engine working now.
So the Pontic engine is really good this time.
Yeah, now we like it.
Good luck to you, Hans.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, of course, the excitement overwhelmed Ronnie then, because Hannu Santala is the man out on the strip now, facing Nils Nilsson from Sweden in the Castrol GTX car. There's Hannu Santala on the right-hand side of the strip, again on the left-hand side of the screen from this angle. Coming up to the line for the launch, which is all important in drag racing, and perhaps even more so for these pro stock cars. Rolling the front wheels into the start line beams. One of these men goes through to the final to meet the amazing Hans Kneuters. Who will it be? We'll find out in a moment. Just about 7 seconds away from the result now as they build up the revs in the motor. And a little bounce from Hannu Santala. Foxes Nils Nilsson, tricks him into going too early. Nilsson lights a cherry on the tree. A red light, he started too soon. Hannu Santala goes through. 7.581, 180 miles an hour. There you can see him leaving early, and there's the red light at the bottom of the tree on the left-hand side of the strip, which says Nils Nilsson jumped the start.
Coming up to the final, Hannu, what do you think?
It's hard to beat Hasse. He's a good driver and good reaction times, but we try.
You have to pick up 1200s. It could be done, couldn't it?
Yes, it could be done, but I think it will be the reaction time what means now.
I wish you good luck.
Thank you.
And now to the final of Competition Eliminator, and it's an all-British affair, and it's two dragsters side by side. Roy Cockerill from Great Britain meets Barry Giles in the Giles and Hartley dragster, also from Great Britain. Barry Giles shutting the visor on his helmet and preparing to come up to the start line. Drag racing folklore says the last man into stage is the first man to complete the trip up the quarter mile. That's why so many drivers tend to hang back. They want to be the last man to nudge the wheels into the beam. And you can see Roy Cockerill taking it slowly, Barry Giles taking it slowly. There goes the RPM in the motor. There goes Barry Giles. A fine launch from Barry Giles. He's away and in front all the way up the quarter mile. Barry Giles takes the win in Competition Eliminator in a very convincing fashion. See it at the top end, Barry Giles with a car-length lead over Roy Cockerill and drawing away from him as he comes towards the finish, really turning on the horsepower, and that's it, 8.63 seconds, 140 miles an hour. It's the final of Pro Modified. Graham Bars came through the quarterfinals with an 8.02 win over Brian Peach and shut down Dave Mingay with an 8.70 to take his place on the start line for this final in the Mustang. The crew clear the smoke from the inside of the car as his opponent Tim Cook comes up to the line. He came through with 7.75 in the quarters and 8.08 in the semi-finals, putting away Jeff Hauser. So the big Chevy takes the right-hand lane. Graham Bars on the left-hand side. And Tim Cook rolling gently up to the start. The form book says it should be the Chevrolet at the top end. It's a 7-second car. Graham Bars really is going to have to work hard to cut it. And Graham Bars works just a fraction too hard there, because as he leaves the line, there's a red light glowing at the bottom of the tree. He goes through first. But look at it again in slow motion and you'll see that Graham Bars was just a fraction over anxious to get the cut on Tim Cook. There's the red light again. It's Tim Cook who takes the win in the final because Graham Bars knew that he was really up against it. Tim Cook then the winner in Pro Modified, 8.24 seconds, 149 miles an hour. Cloud of smoke means it's time for the final of Pro Stock. Hannu Santala from Finland with everything to do in this race, because up against him on the other side of the strip is the fast man from Norway, Hans Kneuters. Kneuters with the Oldsmobile. The fast man, remember, 7.46, 185 miles an hour in his semi-final pairing. So this is the way it works out then. Number one qualifier races number two qualifier in the final, and that makes for very exciting drag racing indeed. A cloud of smoke hanging over the start line after the burnouts. Dry hops now as they come up to the line. Hannu Santala from Finland in the Akai car on the right hand side of the strip. On the left, the man who should be the favourite for this race, Hans Kneuters. Building up the RPM in the motor, clearing it down ready for the race. Tension on the start line. There they go, side by side off the line. It's Hans Knoiters again with the better launch. Hans Knoiters out in front. Hans Knoiters hanging on to it all the way up the quarter mile to take the win. 7.51, 185. So close all the way up the quarter, virtually rubbing door handles. Look at them off the line together. Hans Knoiters, though, already beginning to pull out an advantage over Henry Santler. Hans Knoiters getting to the top end, quite a big gap between them, and Henry Santler losing out 7.69, 178. The winner in Pro Stock then, Hans Knoiters, 7.51 seconds, and look at that terminal speed, 185 miles an hour.
Lindelow, nice to see you back in England. Through to the final, two of the quickest runs you've ever run down the quarter mile.
Yeah.
What's your feelings towards the final now?
Yeah, I think we have a good chance because we have the best time against him, and I'm going to make the best I can to improve. We have a new European record right now.
It's a 5.53 you've just run, and you backed it up earlier on.
Yeah, yesterday. So it's new, but I will try to get into the 40s.
Well, that'd be really nice to see.
Yeah.
Must be quite a pleasure not having to pull a certain English driver in the first round.
Yeah.
Always seemed to happen in Sweden.
Yeah, I think so.
I was quite pleased to see my old car run a 5.77, but I'm sure that he's going to give you a good run back in Sweden next year.
Yeah, he's coming too. This is his first season, I think, with the Top Fuel, and now he's got the car running well, so we'll see.
Have you tuned this one up for the final, or are you running it exactly the same way, just playing safe?
Oh no, we're trying for the 40s. I mean,
I'm not going to go and tell your opposition what you've done.
No, we put some more fuel in it, more percentage, and speeding up, I mean leaning out the engine a bit.
Fabulous. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Tony, here we are. You were right in your prediction that you took out Al Segrini in the first round. How do you feel about the final now with Pelly? You know, Pelly's just run his best ever time, 5.53. What do you think about the final?
I think it's going to be real tough, and but I think we're going to get him too.
You're as confident as ever. All you Swedes are always like this. You know, you're the Scandinavian push. You're going to do it.
Well, you know, we had some good help here from Glenn Micros from the USA, and he do us all, well, what should I say? We feel very comfortable with him here to help us.
Paddy tells me he's hoping to run even quicker in the final. Does this worry you at all?
No, not a bit, because we're going to run faster than him.
Tony Brinterson super confident once again as he comes out to the start line, but he has got a lot of work on his hands. Pelly Lindelow with a 5.53. Has Tony Brinterson got an answer? He ran 5.60 earlier on. Pelly Lindelow must be the man to watch. Burnout's completed then. This must be the moment that the spectators came for, the final of Top Fuel. Both of these potential 5-second runners. Tony Brinterson in the Pioneer car on the left-hand side of the screen. He says he's going to shut down Pelly Lindelow. Pelly Lindelow says he's going to run faster than he did before. It's a good launch for Pelly Lindelow. Pelly Lindelow away from the line. Tony Brinterson all over the place, weaving from side to side there, and smoke pouring out of the back of the car. He was obviously dropping oil on the rear slicks. Tony Brinterson then with problems. A good launch from Pelly Lindelow. There he goes. Tony Brinterson, let's see if we can spot the moment his engine let go. He's already weaving, drifting out to the centre line. Must be losing oil already. Pelly Lindelow, long gone. 5.60 seconds, 234 miles an hour to take the win in Top Fuel. And Tony Brinterson behind him, slowing down 6.50, shut down to 144 miles an hour. Well, there's the winning time for Pelly Lindelow in Top Fuel, 5.60, 234 miles an hour. A brilliant race. Dennis Priddle caught up with both drivers after the final.
Pelly, a well-deserved win.
Thank you.
A new European record?
Yeah, it's fine.
You're still just a little bit pumped up?
Yeah, but yeah, I'm exhausted. We were trying to get faster than the European record that I set before this day, but we won the final at least, and it's good too.
Great. Tony, congratulations, but a wild ride. You had your hands full that time.
Yeah, sure I had. We broke a fuel line, and the engine leaned out, and some pistons and things go out on the block. a big window in it.
Oh, well, that's very, very bad luck, but a great race. Thank you both for putting on such an incredible show.
Thank you. Thank you. See you next year.
Well, the final of Funny Car saw the two least likely contenders, it has to be said. Charlie Draper in the EMS Togo car here, doing his burnout on the left-hand side of the strip, takes his place for the final against Norm Wilding. Gary Page and Harlan Thompson, joint favourites going into the event, both sidelined in the semi-finals. So Norm Wilding in the Lonsdale Passat, a nice hard burnout, a graduate, remember, of the Frank Hawley School of Drag Racing. And the Togo car well loaded, look at it spitting out the nitro, loaded for bear, as they say in drag racing. Somewhere in the high 90s, the percentage of nitromethane in the engine. 2,500, 3,000 horsepower, supercharged, fuel injected. Charlie Draper coming up to the line then. Those little short dry hops. The crew chief pointing him at the spot on the start line. Stu Balance putting Norm Wilding on the spot as well. The final of Funny Car. Norm Wilding off 6.04. Charlie Draper off 6.54 in the semis, and it's Norm Wilding away first. Norm Wilding with a big lead at half strip. Charlie Draper smoking, and Norm Wilding storming away to take the win. Well, Norm Wilding there, 6.09, 196 miles an hour, but it wasn't only Charlie Draper in trouble. Norm Wilding smoking off the start line, and something let go as he went towards the finish. You can see it now, a little bang, the body jerks, there it goes. That looked like the supercharger letting go. Behind him, Charlie Draper, 7.79, 120 miles an hour with problems. Norm Wilding then takes the win in Funny Car, 6.09, 196 miles an hour. Once again, waiting at the top end with the microphone, Dennis Priddle.
Charlie Draper and Norm Wilding, a fantastic final. Norm Wilding, sorry. Your first competitive meet, your first win. You must be absolutely over the moon.
Yeah, no, I'm really pleased with the way things have gone for the whole team. The whole team have worked hard for the last couple of months, and I'm pleased the way it went. Well pleased.
And Charlie, a hard weekend, I understand, but commiserations for not winning, but I just hope you didn't hurt it too bad.
Yeah, well, we've gone through a lot of parts, but I'm happy to be here. A bit unhappy that we didn't complete a full pass, but the EMS Togo car was really, you know, next time. We'll be there next time.
Well, I won't keep you too long, because I remember myself that it's the old heart's still pounding, and you really want to get back and see your crew and congratulate them. Thanks very much for an excellent show.
Well, they're the ones that made it possible. Thank you.
Time for the final in Pro Comp. Bjorn Ardeen here came through 6.46 and 6.42 in the semi-finals to take his place on the start line. Rico Antes with the Mercedes-Benz Coupe, 6.43 and 6.44. So Rico very consistent. Bjorn Ardeen, though, Mr. Consistency himself. Rico Antes really is up against it here. He must know that. He must be trying very, very hard. Bjorn Ardeen always relaxed, always cool about his racing, coming up to the start line for the final. Bjorn Ardeen with a quicker time has chosen the left-hand lane. Rico Antes over on the right-hand side, waiting to see who goes into stage first. Bjorn Ardeen, there he goes. Rico all over the place. Rico with a better launch, but look at the state of Rico Antes. He's everywhere. Bjorn Ardeen unusually slow off the line, but Rico Antes badly out of shape from the moment he hit the throttle. That really was a wild one for him. Look at it, Rico Antes gets away first, Bjorn Ardeen just behind him, but then Rico Antes out of shape from the word go, out over the side, rubs against the barrier, crosses back into the centre, rolls it up onto the headers, teeters on that big slick and bounces back down, and it's Bjorn Ardeen who goes through to take the win. Rico Antes stops the clock, 8.50, 103 miles an hour. The winning time for Bjorn Ardeen in Pro Comp, 6.41, 218 miles an hour. Well, if the finals weren't enough excitement, grudge racing also at Santa Pod. Al Segrini and Harlan Thompson, best of friends off the track, deadly rivals on it for this grudge race. Top Fuel Dragster against Funny Car, away from the line side by side. Harlan Thompson doing a great job of hanging on to Al Segrini, so close at the top end. Brilliant race from both of those drivers, and so close. reading the lights perfectly. They leave together. Harlan Thompson maybe with a slight advantage. The longer nose of the dragster out in front. They're side by side as they go towards the top end. And look at that Elsa Greeny just sneaking past at the top end. 5.73 seconds, 242 miles an hour. Well, a perfect day's racing, but if there was one slight edge of disappointment on the day, it was the failure of Liv Berstad to qualify in top fuel. Everybody was expecting great things of this lady, not least Liv Berstad herself. At the end of the day, she came out alone for a solo pass for another attempt to claim her European record. A nice hard burnout, and look how wet that engine is, puffing out unburnt fuel. A high percentage. Fuel pumps in overdrive, 2 pumps going 28 gallons a minute, 2 magnetos, 2 distributors, 3,000 horsepower, and Liv Berstad looking to better Pelle Lindelow's time. He dropped down into the 6s. Liv Berstad wants to get down below that. There's no one there beside her. She powers away from the line. Liv Berstad scorches up the quarter mile. A perfect run for the Norwegian lady, and she storms up the quarter mile in the fastest run ever recorded outside of the USA. Look at her on the launch. Butterflies open. That car snaps off the line. The chassis flexes, the front wheels stay on the ground, and she's away and gone. And listen to this, 5.37 seconds, 260 miles an hour for Liv Berstad. The perfect end to a perfect day's racing. World Finals 1989 at Santopod, and you can see how well the crowd received that run. Everybody on their feet to give the crew the round of applause which they so justly deserve, setting the seal on a perfect weekend of drag racing. The best days racing at Sandipod or anywhere else in Europe for that matter this season, and the sun sets on the World Finals.